What's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac. Welcome back to Big Bike BMX. Today we're going to explore the differences between a 26-inch BMX cruiser style bike and a 26-inch DirtJumper. So let's talk about it. Which one is right for you? Maybe you just want to roll around and cruise around the neighborhood with your bros, or you want to hit up the pump track and feel that rush of those berms on the DirtJumper. Today we're going to figure out which one is the right choice for you. All right, so let's get into the geometry of the DirtJumpers. First of all, I'm not a dirt jumper. I'm 52. If I fall, I shatter. So when I'm looking at this bike, when I'm giving you advice, I'm literally talking to someone like me that's coming back to BMX, wants to get a BMX bike or a bike that feels familiar to them. So we're going to talk about the DirtJumper and the BMX frame, but I won't be doing any dirt jumping if you're expecting that. If that's something that you do, you already know more about these than I do. So I'm looking at them strictly as a ride-around bike, someone that didn't have one of these when I was growing up, and what it feels like to have one now. So you can kind of make that decision if you want a DirtJumper or the big BMX bike. So first things first, 22.75 top tube, same size as it's on the BMX Cruiser. It does have a short rear end back here. I have the vertical or the horizontal dropouts. You can get the vertical dropouts you bolt in. If you want to have gears, it'll have a derailleur hanger, things like that. It does have a disc brake in the back. The BMX bike has a V-brake. The bottom bracket is at 12 inches versus 11.625 on the BMX Cruiser. You'll notice that the head tube is thicker at the bottom. That's new. And it has a 69.5 head tube angle where 71.5 on the BMX Cruiser. All right, so now you know all about the DirtJumper. Let's compare and contrast the big BMX bike. This is a 26-inch AMX 250. It's an aluminum frame, just like the DirtJumper. The Shine V4 is aluminum. This one's also aluminum. Differences, right off the bat, rigid fork all the way down. This is the SX 250 Pro fork with a disc brake on the front because I like to run flatland. The other thing you'll see, pegs front and back. I'm able to get pegs on here real easy. I run my seat a little bit higher because I like to do wheelies most of the time I'm on my bike. So top tube, same, 22.75 on the AMX 250. The head tube angle, steeper though, 71.5 on the head tube angle. But it is the 1/8 all the way down, whereas the DirtJumper is 1 1/8 to 1.5 at the bottom because it has the bigger head tube for the bigger fork race. These run regular bars. I run 8-inch handlebars, 8-inch rise on my bike. Single speed as well. The bottom bracket is a little bit lower on this, 11.625 versus 12 on the DirtJumper frame. So a lot of similarities, but so very different when you sit and you ride these bikes. When you do ride this bike, one thing I notice is because it's got the steeper head tube angle, it's more aggressive in the steering, and you are sitting a little bit more upright in like a BMX stance versus the DirtJumper. The lower bars put your center, your gravity kind of more mid on the bike and forward, where this is mostly back. The center of balance is like right around here and over the back. So gives you that cool BMX feel, super easy to wheelie, super easy to control, very, very, very predictable. It feels like a big BMX bike, whereas the DirtJumper feels more of like a compact, ready to go, aggressive bike right off the bat, even though it's a longer wheelbase because of the force. So wild, the way that these two are so similar, but ride very differently. All right, so here we are. We're gonna go ride the bikes around. I can tell you, just sitting on the DirtJumper like this, I feel like I've sat like this on my bike my whole life. So that's where, when I tell you a bike feels very familiar, like you can just get on it and this feels like your BMX bike when you were a kid. So let's go for a ride. bike feels, it's taller. It doesn't feel the same BMX-y as the DirtJumper, but this feels more comfortable for me because I ride it more. That makes sense. This is the bike I ride every day. Let's go for a ride. This bike, the weight is well back. I think because my handlebars are taller, it sits way back. A little bit more comfortable just pedaling. These things run very different parts, y'all. So I've got basic Amy grips on the front. Those are just the 1.3s and some Spank bars that have a minimal lift. I believe it's 300, but I'd have to check. Right here, you'll notice that the difference between the front top of the tire and the fork race on a DirtJumper, it's pretty big, so you get the travel. If you do get a rigid fork, you want to match that same crown to race ratio. You'll notice the POTS mod up at the top there, going right through, so I get a front brake. I can spin my bars around. That goes down to a disc brake at the very bottom of those wheels. There's that 1/8 to 1 1/5 head tube, so beefy and strong up front. I love the way that looks. You can get a headset for this that matches the bottom and the top with a little piece that pops out, so they're universal. It'll fit a 1 1/8 or a 1 1/8 to 1.5. You can get that at supercrossbmx.com. That's what I'm using on this one. There's the POTS mod, and it does have a 31/8 grip area on that clamp because the DirtJumpers do have the bigger clamp area there. And again, these wheels are just something I got from a local bike shop. There's some Spank hoops with some Hope hubs. Got them right out of a catalog. They were a couple $100. So just dropped them right on because they had the 20 millimeter axle, the through axle on the front, and the standard BMX size in the back. Coming down here, we've got the Speedline Euro bottom bracket. Got some Fit Blunt cranks there. The KMC Cool Night chain. You do see the tabs there if you want to run the chain alignment. And then back here, I've got the horizontal dropouts. You could drop them to the vertical dropouts by bolting those in. Super easy to do. And then you can run a geared bike in the back here. But this is, again, just a Hope hub with some Spank wheels in the back. It does have a disc brake. This thing sweats dirt, I promise you. There's some Odyssey pedals there. And then you got the cable guides that come down all the way back if you are going to run that derailleur and a geared bike in the back there. Got the signature seat from Supercross on there. I'm running the seat high so you can see it, but yeah, it runs low. The standover height is really great. It's a really nice, aggressive feel to it. And the center of gravity just kind of pulls you back there. But that 22.75 head tube or top tube length is fantastic. It gives you a really good condensed feel in the back so you can lift up real easy, and the geometry makes it easy to get up. Now let's look at the AMX 250. Aluminum frame, just like the DirtJumper. I've got the 8-inch handlebars. Cable disc brakes is what I'm running on this. So you've got the 1 1/8 head tube here. It goes all the way down to the rigid fork. It's got a real nice gusset up front. Keeps it nice and strong. But obviously it's not designed to do the same things as the DirtJumper, so be aware of that. But that gusset is just so big and beefy. I love it. It's got pegs on them. This is the SX 250 Pro Fork with the disc brake. This is a Profile Elite AL cranks. So that's the bottom bracket there. It's got the big boy axle in the middle of those cranks. We've got a Speedline Killer Buzz hub set back there. It's nice and loud. It's a worm drive. Got the Evil Alloy pedals. And then the Carrera RS seat, that's a fantastic seat. I love it. Been running it for about 2 years now. So there's the whole bike. Looking at it from a distance, it looks like the typical BMX bike. I run the seat a little bit low, so when it's up in a wheelie, it's a little bit more horizontal, but that's the whole bike. I've got some M80 hoops, some Speedline Killer Buzz hubs in the back, a profile disc hub in the front, and the Evil Alloy stem with some Supercross flatline 8-inch bars there. One more quick look. We got the Amy grips, the 1.3s. That blue lever, that's a Speedline brake lever. The purple one on the opposite side is my Evil Alloy lever. Coming down with those beautiful chromed out SX250 Pro Forks with the disc brake on them and the pegs. Those are some old school pegs. I've had them about 20 years. That's sick frame. You got the Elite AL cranks again. Another look at those, the parking lot punk pegs. Evil Alloy Pro 1 brakes. There's a good look at that Speedline Killer Buzz hub in the back. It's a worm drive. It's real loud. And then I've got the Shadow chain on the other side there. Got the Cool Stop AT pads. Love them. The Supercross anniversary pad set that matches the shoes. Got the Evil Alloy Trident stem. And then shout out to Shane at BMX Ultra for that titanium Potts mod bolt that I can use there on my Supercross forks. And then the Carrera RS seat. This thing is fantastic. Kevlar and leather. Absolutely adore that seat. I've been running it about 2 years. Here's a Ride Out Supply quick release seat post clamp. Again, the profile cranks and the Shadow copper. I'm in the copper state, so we run copper chains. But man, love this bike so much. Fantastic design. All right, let's wrap this up. We've talked about the differences in the big BMX cruiser versus the DirtJumper. We've discussed the difference in components. We've discussed the way that they ride. The platform that you likely already understand, know, you might even have some extra parts laying around. So it's very easy to adjust, dial. The parts are going to be what you remember from the 80s. Not a lot is different except for sometimes you get disc brakes, things like that. But most of the components and parts, very easy to work on, very easy to come by, and you probably already know them. The look and feel of the bike is something that you already remember and you know and you love, and then it rides exactly the way you remember. It's very comfortable. You can pedal it for a long distance. The bigger wheels are going to conquer more terrain than you would normally, right? So the bigger tires on the 26-inch BMX Cruiser is going to be a real delight, especially if you're coming from the 20-inch world, because they roll over everything and go for a long distance. You'll have a blast. Those are the pros. The cons, it is a single speed if you're going with the BMX bike, so there's not a lot of options for gearing or anything like that unless you buy a geared bike that has the wider rear end. So you are committing to a single speed, so there's that. And the other thing I will tell you is the big BMX Cruiser is very fun to ride around on the streets, but if you're doing jumping, bunny hops, things like that, the size, because the bars are so different, it will make it a little bit more difficult, I think, to control in the air and things like that. The big BMX Cruiser, dirt jump, easy. It's very compact and it just dips and goes where you want it to go. Let's talk pros and cons on the DirtJumper. Now, the DirtJumper, I think, offers a little bit more versatility because you do have the option for single speed. You can ride those on ride outs. My buddy Zach Lewis came to Phoenix, rode 20 miles on his, the seat was slammed the whole night. You absolutely can do that. You also have the ability to gear them so you can have a gear. So you're climbing hills will be a lot easier. You can raise the seat up. So the DirtJumper has more options as far as that. You can also run a rigid or the suspension fork on the DirtJumper to give you very dramatically different riding styles, but the bike would stay in the same geometry. So absolutely a huge thing there. You can get a rigid fork if you don't like the suspension. So that's another big bonus there. The 26-inch DirtJumper does use a disc brake. I like disc brakes more than cable pull brakes. So I think that is one, but that's a pro or a con depending on what you like to ride. Let's talk the cons on the DirtJumper. So because it's not something I'm really familiar with, I don't have extra parts that necessarily meet that, like the through axle and the suspension fork. So it's a little bit harder for me to understand the parts and get the parts. I don't know really where to look. So that's one downside. but it's also pretty fun to go and look for these parts and to walk into new shops that I'm not necessarily familiar with and ask them about mountain bike stuff. Very, very cool. You'll make some new friends, but it is a little bit more difficult to find the parts for a DirtJumper if you don't know what they are and you're not familiar with them going in. The other con, if you are someone, this one's going to land in the pro and the con. If you are running the single speed and you're older, maybe your hips, your knees, your back doesn't feel great, the DirtJumper may not be as comfortable. You may have to lift that seat up a little bit higher than you normally would. And at that point, I don't know, you're almost in that BMX cruiser world, so you may as well just get a cruiser. Up to you. Both these bikes are going to make you happy. Let's talk conclusions. So for me, I'm not ready to give up my 26-inch AMX 250 BMX cruiser to ride the DirtJumper full time. However, I have been riding this DirtJumper for the last 2 weeks almost consistently as my main bike, and I am loving it. So expect some more DirtJumper content from me. You won't see me sending it on big hills or anything like that, but I do really enjoy riding it around, hitting some curbs, hitting some jumps, doing some bunny hops. It's a lot of fun. If you're looking just to get out and relive that moment of like being on your bike as a kid, as a teenager, riding around with your friends in the 80s, both these bikes will give you that same feel. DirtJumper will probably give you a little bit more of that 80s feel than the big BMX cruiser, so it's really up to you. So my advice, buy the bike that's going to give you the most joy. If you think you're going to spend a lot of time up in the air sending it, get a DirtJumper. I think you're going to really enjoy it. If you just want to ride around, enjoy some wheelies and cruise with your buddies, the 26-inch AMX 250 is a fantastic bike. You may even want to look at like a 29-inch AMX 250 because both those sizes are great for riding around with your friends. You'll be comfortable. You can put lots of miles on them. It's not too difficult. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What bike is your favorite and which one would you pick over the BMX Cruiser, the DirtJumper? And we'll talk to you again on Big Bike BMX. Go have some fun, guys. Ride your bikes.